From the Dallas On Air studios in beautiful Dallas, Texas, this is Fulfillment right here on DallasOnAir.com. And now here's your host, the Mega Bomber, PJ Dunn.
Welcome, everybody. This is Season 4. We're looking at Episode 18. And, well, it's fall here in beautiful Texas right about now, so we're getting away from those 100-degree days. We're feeling pretty good about that.
Going down to 90s.
Yes, how about that? That's what we're clapping for down here in Texas right about now. So welcome to Fulfillment. This is the show where we discuss all things film, movie collecting, movie chatter. We talk about it all. And today, the topic is going to be the opposite of what we talked about the last time. We talked about what constitutes or makes a great film. So we're going to take that other side today and talk about, hey, what are deal breakers, or what are movies that are actually not great pieces of cinema or film? And there'll be a lot of takes on that. But let me introduce the cast of character with me today.
What character?
Right? And that would be the man behind the camera, my trusty sidekick, front kick, back kick, and all that, Kazak.
Salutations, campers. Welcome to DallasOnAir.com. Although I noticed you didn't use quick kick, because I just don't have that resemblance. I don't have the legs. I don't have the legs for it.
Yeah, something about that age thing, man. Just stuff changes on us. And I am your movie tour guide, the Vega Bomber. So I'll just start with a quick little thesis, and then we're going to break it down and just take a look at, hey, what are deal breakers for you in the film, but definitely what's deal breakers for us, and then, just how would we define a crappy movie? So I would just say that since art is still subjective, just like last week, it is hard to get everyone to agree on what a bad movie is, just like it was to get everyone to agree on what's a good movie. But at the same time, I think some hints might be when you start checking your watch, when you start getting up and wanting to go to the bathroom and not come back to the theater, that's probably evidence that you're seeing something bad. And on top of it, Hollywood now has said, well, let's keep cranking these films out because people seem to like them. And so now with business side and the poor crafting together, we now have a slew of unmemorable films that some of us may call bad. So diving in, I guess we could look at this as a pre-movie, a during the movie, and then post-movie thing if we're talking about from experience. But pre-movie wise, what doesn't work for you, Kazak?
Well, when I go in, when I'm looking at, first of all, the marketing of the film, when I'm going in, there are certain stars that I have a blacklist on. Just anything the star makes, I'm not going in for. Anytime I see him, no.
Okay.
And I'll give you the blacklist right now just because it's just easier to get it out of the way.
Yes.
Julia Roberts, number one. Nothing. Beelzebub Brockovich, no. 2, Sandra Bullock, just no. No. Just
dark-haired actresses.
No. She's a fine human being, just a lousy actress. Just one note role every time.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
I know for you that's a sore spot because of Yellowstone, things like that. But for me, the man is just the equivalent of Kansas. He literally is the equivalent of Kansas, just completely flat, no character. Keanu Reeves.
Yep.
Keanu Reeves, dude is a great human being, no question. The guy is a great soul, but all his movies are not only flat, but also all his movies are the same plot. Guy in a black suit saves the world every single time. Everything from Johnny Mnemonic to the day after the day the Earth stood still to Constantine. Just he saves the world. He saves the world from
Matrix.
Hell. He saves the world from aliens. And blah blah blah. And finally, Halle Berry. Ever since X-Men: The Last Stand, X-Men 3: The Last Stand.
Yeah.
Just like, why are you giving this woman more time? Why are you giving this woman more screen time? Just, I can't do it.
Yeah.
When I see any of these actors, and the big one, Mel Gibson. If he's connected, I can't even watch any of his old stuff just because the man's the devil. I don't like him. I don't want him near my pocketbook. I don't want him anywhere near my attention span. I want him gone, just completely. I know we've talked about cancel culture and things like that. That is the man that needs to be canceled.
Yeah,
just completely.
Yeah.
So it's those stars. The second thing that gets me is over Hollywoodization. Because I mean, I love bad movies,
Mm-hmm.
but bad movies go in with the intent of being bad.
Yeah.
Not necessarily they don't take craft, but
Mm-hmm.
just they're bad movies, but the intention of, hey, we know this isn't going to be anything great.
Mm-hmm.
We're good with that. And
Bad but
and,
fun
yeah,
movies.
I go into that agreement with you.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but when it goes in over Hollywoodized, completely just looking to either grab that Oscar or grab that 100% merchandising,
Mm-hmm.
or talk down to kids and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just any of it for me is just not going to work. When I see it, like perfect example, Titanic. I know what this movie is.
Yep.
Avatar. I know what this movies are.
Yep.
Not to speak ill of James Cameron because he's done some great work.
For sure.
Aliens, The Abyss, just all that. Some of it's great,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not going in for that. There's just no way.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, the over romantic movie plot. I mean, my tastes are pretty simple. If I'm gonna go see it in the theater,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, I've got no problem with intimate love stories.
Sure.
Perfect example, like the rom-coms that we used to watch when we were younger. Stuff like When Harry Met Sally and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine.
You've got mail. Sure.
Yeah,
Hitch.
It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing I'm going to pay theater prices for.
True.
I don't need to see that on a big screen. I just don't.
Mm-hmm.
Or the overly family tied. And I'll get into
Mm-hmm.
examples of that when we get into more of the deal breakers. But
Mm-hmm.
when I get into those examples, when I get into things like that, it's not going to reach me specifically. It's
Yeah.
not for me. It's not for me to pay that price. If I'm going to go see it, it's going to be a big spectacle on screen, and that's what I expect to see.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be, a fantastically shot love story like 3,000 Years of Longing, or it can be, something as big as Pacific Rim. It's going to be big
Mm-hmm.
because I want that experience of spectacle on screen. That's
Mhm.
what's going to do it for me.
Mm-hmm. No, I love it. I love it. For me, pre-movie, I'm looking at it from the perspective of, this trailer, right? Because a lot of times I don't hear about these movies until the trailer comes out sometimes, or people are always forwarding me trailers like, hey, watch this.
Yeah.
So my first thought on the movie comes down to, man, if you give me a trailer that tells me everything I need, tells me everything in the movie already, just in the trailer, because that tells me you're trying too hard to get me in there, because there's some very flat spots in the film that aren't very good. So therefore, when trailers have the very funniest of the scenes all in the trailer, and then you go see the movie and you find out, man, that was it. If I'd have just watched the trailer, I probably would have been satisfied. So I'm kind of really, that's the first thing that will get my hackles up when I start to think about going to see a movie pre-movie. The other thing is, too, I do have my list of actors and actresses I won't pay attention to, and it's also directors, too.
Hit 'em.
I don't care about...
Come on.
Yeah.
Name names.
Name names.
Name
Yeah.
names.
Yeah, so I actually, we have a lot on our list together.
Yeah.
I think I tolerate Kevin Costner, because I've seen a lot worse. Like Halle Berry, I couldn't with Catwoman. I was just like, really, Halle Berry, please. And then yet they gave her an Oscar in another movie with her and of course he's gonna slip my
Billy Bob
Thornton. Yeah, Monsters Ball, right? So I'm like, how do you go from that to they're on crack. So I don't care for her. Julie Roberts, I don't really care for that much either. I'm not trying to copy your list, but you used to hit on a lot of the people there. I used to love, well, actually I still do, so I can't put Liam Neeson on there. I still love him, even though the last 4 or 5 things he did was absolutely horrible.
No, he's drifting into that territory of it's the same note. They're hiring for the same thing, and he's just cashing that check.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, now you know what? And I guess another one that bothers me, I don't like, I don't care for Ryan Reynolds. And I know that's probably hellfire for some people, but I just never really cared, for the all-American good-looking dude that's now snarky and funny, and now he's laughed at everything. Yeah, well, some say he's comedian. Oh, he's Canadian, you said. Yeah, okay, yeah. So I don't really see the big deal about him like a lot of people do. So whenever I see him, I'm just kind of like, okay, I'll try to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I'm not in no big hurry to run out to go see a vehicle. And I think Green Lantern was a perfect example, among many others, again, about how this guy, he's just that one trick pony as well. And this will really upset some people, but I don't care for Will Ferrell either. So he is the same dumb comedian guy in every single movie. And that's why I like Robin Williams and I like Jim Carrey, because they were able to be comedians but also play serious roles. And Will Ferrell is still doing the same Talladega Nights guy. Now, again, not that these movies weren't entertaining, but I just don't have a hatred for him. He's not enough to get me into the movie. Will
That's
Ferrell
fair.
is.
That's
So
fair.
if I can at least say it that way, because I don't hate any of these guys, but you're not going to be enough to make me go there. So I think that would be the first thing. And like I said, the other thing would be that if they kill it in the trailer, I just don't want you to kill it in the trailer for me. Please let me have something that compels me to want to go see your film.
Give me something to discover.
Yes. And nowadays, that's what you see. Now it's like they're so afraid of getting you to the movie because they have to make $800 million or else it's a failure. Then they just pull all the stops out and put everything in the trailer. So that's kind of a pre-movie thing that kills it for me.
And everything goes Disney, and Disney's going to do it big, or it's literally go big or go.
They're gonna do it big and formulaic, and then they're gonna pound and squeeze every little bit out of you for that same particular trope over and over and over again, in non-creative ways. And I would say there's probably 1/3 category, and that's just movies I just don't have any interest in the subject matter, so I'm just not going to go see it. So, as much as Lincoln, I love history and all that stuff, I didn't really want to go see Lincoln because I love Daniel Day-Lewis, but I just knew the length of that film and what they were going to do with Lincoln and just about what he's done. I've already read a lot about it. It's kind of like with you with Titanic. Seeing Lincoln from my history buff type perspective, I don't feel like it would hold up. And so I saw it later, but I just had no interest in seeing how they were going to do that.
Yeah, I'm the same way with disaster movies.
Okay.
I mean, I went to see Twister, but just the day after tomorrow, and I just doesn't do it for me. I mean, I know that they go big and expensive on like Titanic again, the big disaster film. I don't want to see it.
Yeah. I have no desire to see movies like Cats, stuff like that.
If you're gonna go see that, go see it. Go see it high.
Yeah,
I don't partake, but I had a friend. I have a friend who writes for the Dallas Observer, and he wrote about his experience going to go see Cats and going to go see it high, and that was absolutely hysterical. If you can,
I'd say another film would be like, what's it? The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
Oh yeah,
that's not going to be me.
That is not for you and me. That is just that is not for you and me.
And so, as long as I know that will keep me out of a movie, and so that's definitely it.
And like I said, we can probably get into maybe movies that we talk about with significant others and things like that, and the ones that we'll go with and the ones we won't. So kind of going into that, because like I said, if we'll make concessions at times.
Yeah.
But man, when we talk about what movie do you want to go see, it's gonna be, what are you taking me to?
Yeah. No, I think that's great. So, if you want to talk about that, well, I know I recently told you about Top Gun and how it was entertaining and all this stuff. I knew you weren't gonna love it and probably not even like it, but I thought there might be a chance he could respect elements of it, and so I told you, go check out Top Gun, because I actually had a great time with it, even though I didn't think I would.
And I checked out Top Gun, and like I said, I think we're going to kind of break into the conversation that we were going to get into a little later, but let's go and break into it now.
Yeah.
So when I go into this movie, I know what I'm getting. Like, I knew I'm absolutely getting Top Gun Maverick and things like that. And what I could respect in it is the flight shots, just the aircraft shots that 30, 40 minutes in the air is really well done. Really well done. But there's so much Tom Cruise. And when I say Tom Cruise, everything centers around this man. All the hero shots, the slow motion hero shots. Like every time Tom Cruise is on screen, they slow the pacing down, or they slow the frames down just enough for you to be drawn into Tom Cruise. And it's, again, Tom Cruise doing mask work behind the aviator oxygen mask, and Tom Cruise getting thrown out of the barn. Just, it's so much Tom Cruise. Like, Please stop. These are the original Top Gun. They're worth other things than Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
And I don't care.
Yeah.
So much of the hero stuff, so much of it took me out of the film when I went to go see it. So while I could respect the 30, 40 minutes of aircraft, I lost respect for the Tom Cruise, and then I lost respect for the plot because it just got really stupid and goofy. It went to, this is way too Hollywood. I'm out. And I completely check out. You know, whoa, he's going to fly the same aircraft that he did 25 years ago. No.
You know, that's something that's interesting to me. What I felt the movie also got right was that it didn't waste its time, Force Awakens, doing homage after homage after homage after homage. And when they did incorporate characters, I liked how they did Val Kilmer because of the situation around him and his health and everything. And they made it just a part of the movie. So I felt like this is good. I like that they didn't just say, remember this, remember this, remember this, remember this. They did enough just to set the stage to get you back in that universe. And then after that, they went with something more compelling. So I was very thankful for that because I tell you now, most of these films with the sequels, that's what it is. It is just homage to death about, do you remember this? Do you remember that? Remember this? Remember when he said this? Remember when he said that? That's what Jurassic World Domination, whatever thing did. It brought everybody back and it just kept going back to saying things that they already said before. Well, that's a big lump of or, I have a problem with this. It was just some of the same stuff that they put in there just so you could go, yeah, I remember when he said it back then. And it's just as powerful when he said it today. And it's kind of like, no, it's not, because we see that it's a money grab.
Yeah, we got the joke the first time. Now the action figure says it. I don't need this figure in my life.
No. No. And that's another thing that you bring up too, which I think is going to be good to talk about as well. But let's talk specifically about during the movie. What are some things specifically that a movie can do that will take you out of the movie?
The over tug at the heartstrings, because I mean, you can have the warm and fuzzy, you can have that relationship, but it can be just way too much. This is like, okay, this is your Oscar grab moment. This is your establishing them as the good father. I mean, the example that I'll give, I was taken to go see Will Smith's Pursuit of Happiness. Oh my God. So many eye rolls in this movie because, he's holding his son in the dimly lit bathroom. He's struggling to get the Rubik's Cube solved before he gets out of the cab. Just, no. You're not building my sympathy for this character whatsoever. You're overly yanking me into maudlin emotion. Just you're taking me in when the relationship isn't genuine, when the chemistry is just forced. Again, I'll bring up Top Gun Maverick. Jennifer Connelly's there for a paycheck. Jennifer Connelly is gorgeous.
Yes,
she does really good work. But when the emotions are forced, or when the relationships are just yanking back your leash, just it's terrible. It's during that movie. And again, I know that one of the things for you is overly snarky comments. I'm good with the snarky comments, but it doesn't have to be every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Again, my example for that will be Doctor Strange.
Sure.
Because Doctor Strange visually is a great picture, but Doctor Strange and the way they created the hero, that's not no. From what I know, the limited amount of what I know of Doctor Strange, I know that he's not the smirky, quick wit, bad joke guy. That's not him.
Yeah.
I don't get me wrong, Benedict Cumberbatch, great actor, but
for certain,
it doesn't do him any service just to give him the quick wit every 5 minutes. It's not needed, because what I want again is to get me into this hero. My final Hollywood deal breaker is when you don't establish your villain. when you
Yeah.
don't establish your
Yeah.
villain properly.
Yeah.
When, I'm going to get into probably established villain later on today when we get into our picks.
Mm-hmm.
But what I absolutely hate is when I don't understand the villain's motivation, or I don't care about the fight to get to the villain.
Yeah.
I gotta have something to connect with. I gotta have a reason to either hate, fear, or respect the antagonist.
Right.
I've gotta have that.
Yes.
100%.
100%.
I mean, when a good example of properly built protagonist versus antagonist, Hannibal Lecter and Frederick Chilton.
Mm-hmm.
The two doctors, the idiot doctor and the supremely well-balanced doctor. Even though Hannibal Lecter is the villain in this movie, you really have to respect the antagonist, and you really have to respect Dr. Chilton, the fact that he's a nincompoop.
Yeah.
He's an absolute idiot.
Yes.
But like I said, that's an antagonistic relationship that I can fully respect, that I can fully see.
Yeah.
I need that relationship to bring me into your film. We were talking earlier about when movies, don't properly set you up, or they're trying to grab your attention in the first 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
They're just kind of nowadays all the movies are forcing the combat right at the top. Mm-hmm. There's nothing to establish this battle. It's just throwing you right into the war.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need that. Doesn't do it for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, these are important things and distinctions to make. And I'm the same in that for me, I don't like product placement in the movie, because what you just told me is this is a cash grab, and you just told me who sponsored most of the movie. So when there's really obvious like plants of Coca-Cola or something in the scene, that takes me out of the movie pretty easily, because I'm just going, wow. What also takes me out of the
let me ask you this real quick, because does that apply to cars? Because I know you're a car guy. Does that apply to cars and automobiles?
No, because it depends on the story. If the story is about a racer, then yeah, I'm cool with that. If it's just somebody trying to put the latest Audi into the picture for no particular reason, because the character needs to drive this car, yeah, then I would be like, okay, that's
why is James Bond behind a Yugo?
right, exactly. So some things but that's a great distinction as well. The other thing I would say is I don't like bathos, and that's what I have a problem with. So bathos is just whenever you have to put humor in every 5 seconds to kind of let people know, because they've tested that audience like to have a good time in a movie. They like to laugh. So that's why Marvel does this. And actually, I've seen the statistics on this. Marvel makes sure that they have some sort of quip or joke every minute and 18 seconds. So if you watch someone did this deal and they put it up there, and they were posting how that's the average now, is that within every minute and 18 seconds, there's going to be a quip from somebody. Somebody's going to say something or do something to make it right. And so I don't appreciate that, because I imagine Gladiator when he's about to say, "Are you not entertained?" And before that he goes, "Are you not entertained?" And he belches or farts right before he does that, just to try to add a levity so that it would. And it's like, no, you don't need that. I like to know that these characters are suffering, because suffering is a part of the human condition. And I want to see how they're handling their version of suffering and what they're going to do about it, and what friends are going to help them. What are they going to learn along the way? But to me, why should I take anything serious if none of the actors or the characters are not taking it serious? So if they're about to fly into a black hole and be destroyed for the rest of forever, lost for forever, and everybody's just cutting up and cracking jokes, why do I care? Why is it in space? Why do you even need a black hole to do that? I mean, it's just, and I would say the third thing I just immediately roll my eyes at is when characters are dead, but you bring them back just because you need something, you want to add something to the plot. Like Wonder Woman 84 did this crap, and the Star Wars movie, the last one, Rise of Skywalker, did that by bringing back Palpatine. So when you bring back characters that actually died and it had a meaning, for him to die in Return of the Jedi at the hand of Darth Vader trying to save his son Luke, so that Luke and Darth can have that great father-son moment, but then you just bring him back later and say, oh, well, there was a clone. Then we get to ask all these questions. Well, what was he doing for 30 years? And why does he need Snoke? If he can just clone, why don't he just clone himself and come back? You don't need a Snoke. Why would you? I mean, there's so many other questions you can start asking now as soon as they do that with bringing a person back. So don't cheat death. When somebody dies, let them earn that death like King Leonidas in 300. if he just popped up all of a sudden after all those arrows that Xerxes and them shot at him and was like, just kidding, guys, I'm not really dead.
I'm not dead. I
Yes,
feel fine.
yeah,
I feel
I'm just
happy."
feeling terrible, but I'm getting better. You know, you know. So yeah, if you do those kind of things in the movie, besides the other things of just having a stupid, plot line and the characters that don't make sense and changing a character, those things will quickly take me out of a movie.
There you go.
Right? And so how about post movie? So let's say we've gone in, we've seen the movie, the marketing worked well. During the movie they did some horrible things. So when you walk out of a movie, how should you feel? And then bad movies don't do what well to keep you from having that bad feeling when you walk out.
The long and short of it is that when I go into a movie,
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving you my trust and my time.
Yes.
I want to walk out feeling that I either didn't waste my money or I didn't waste my time. A perfect example of I'll give you two examples of that.
Okay.
I took my wife to a film with John Cusack called Serendipity.
Yep.
This movie was sold to me as in some John Cusack looking into the camera, delivering quips. Because again, when he does it, he's really good at it. When
Yes.
you look at something like High Fidelity,
Yep.
it's great. When you look at the Ice Harvest, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
But in this, it is exhaustive just how cute this film is, and it just kills me. I felt so pissed that I wasted my money and time in this theater. Not because I don't love a good love story, but because I wasted it on that.
Yes.
Because High Fidelity is a great love story. It is a great, fantastic romantic movie.
Yeah. So is Most Loved Dogs.
Yeah.
I actually dug that.
Yeah. But Serendipity, it's just trash. The other movie that I wasted my time,
Mm-hmm.
Marvel's Eternals.
Oh.
I watched 2.5 hours and I couldn't tell you any of the heroes' names. I couldn't tell you the villains' names. I could barely tell you the plot. I had to look up the cameos. Just none of the property stuck with me. And I gave them 2.5 hours of my time. Other than Angelina Jolie and Kumail Nanjiani, I don't care about the friggin' movie. I just don't. I didn't care about any of it. I gave you 2.5 hours of my time to get that. I was at home and I wanted to walk out. And it was my home. So, yeah. When I walk out, I don't want to feel like I wasted my money or my time. Even, it's not, the dialogue's okay. Even if the plot's okay. It's just an average horror film and things like that.
Yeah.
And if I enjoyed myself, I'm good. And I consider myself pretty easily entertained. This one, don't waste my time. Don't waste my money.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. So when these things highlight other issues with what's going on with movie making right now as well. So like all these sequels and reboots and Captain America 4 and 5 and 6, and you just wonder what number they're going to get to. And people are saying, no, the character should live on forever because it does in the comic books. It says, yeah, but it doesn't mean it deserves a movie. So not everything deserves to have a good movie. If you're not going to bring something new and exciting to the theater, but just another guy in spandex that's running around, a guy or girl running around in spandex that has some powers that everybody else doesn't have, at some point you have to say, okay, well, how many of these do you need to keep seeing, right? Because I won't watch a TV show if every episode is kind of like the last episode. If they're doing the same thing and the characters are in the same place and they don't go anywhere else, but I'm supposed to like them just because they're funny, it's going to wear thin because at some point you'll know their joke beats and when they're going to go to their jokes and things like that. So for me, I think there's a business side that has created some of this problem that we see now because they're saying, here's what test out in the screens. People want to be entertained. And what do they find entertaining? They want to laugh. They want to be thrilled. And then they want a good, happy ending. And then you got to throw in a little bit of romance so that the girls, quote unquote, can be excited about that. And then there you go. And then now you put that in every film. That's not a movie to me. That's a movie being made by a bureaucracy, which that's not what the best films are. The best films are when the screenwriter and the director understand what the movie is about. But see, we won't get that now. And then because most people don't maybe watch movie as critically as we do, because they don't go to as many movies, they maybe go to 3 or 4 movies a year. They're just going to go to the big tent pole because everybody's seeing it, so therefore it must be good. No, it's just popular right now. And so now what we have is great movies that you'll never pay a lot of attention to, like The Northman, Black Phone, Hell or High Water, Sicario will never do the numbers because people are going for the smallest base universal thing that they think everybody likes so they can fit in, the fear of missing out, as you talked about earlier. So talk about that a little bit. You know, how does that affect you, Kazak, when you look at movies?
Okay, wait a minute. Sorry.
It's okay.
Had something. I had kind of a glitch. Ask me that question one more time.
Yeah, so when business starts to creep into the sameness of all the movies and the sameness of the trailers, how does that affect your movie-going experience?
Okay. For me, it's about 70-30.
Okay.
Because, like I said, I still like the Marvel Universe, but I know when I want to go see it and when they're just selling me something. Because I'm interested in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad.
Mm-hmm.
I am not interested in Captain Marvel 2. Because I know that when I care about the heroes, or I can at least get something from the trailer to say, okay, I want to see this because it's completely outrageous, completely cinematic, that's fine. But when I get nothing burgers like Thor Love and Thunder, which is a complete nothing burger, I know you're just selling me a ticket. And and I don't want to pay for your commercial. I don't want to pay for you to sell me toys. I definitely don't want to go learn more about topic A, topic B movies. I'm walking in going, you're just trying to sell me a ticket.
Yeah.
And you don't get my money today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look at that trailer and go, because again, we go to the movies and we see 20 or 30 minutes of trailers right at the top.
Yep.
We know what movies we're going to go see.
Mm-hmm.
Out of those, we'll look at, okay, this looks fun. Okay, this looks terrible. And I know when you're trying to sell me that. Because again, I can think critically. And again, when we talk about the families that go, because going to the movies is expensive. It really is. I mean, the tickets are what they are, but to pay for the popcorn, to pay for the
concessions,
drinks, to pay for or if you're going for the dining in experience, because Alamo menu is expensive.
Yep.
Those dine-in movie theaters are expensive.
Mm-hmm. If
you're going to go in for that dinner and the movie, you know that they're trying to sell you something to get you to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
We as people who watch these movies critically know that we're going to invest.
Yes.
I mean, let's face it, we're a small show. We don't get the press passes and things like that, so we don't get the free previews. So if someone throws us those, contact us.
Mm-hmm.
You can contact us and give us those. But we pay our ticket prices. We go in, we pay to see the movies. We pay for the popcorn and things like that because we enjoy the movie-going experience, and we want to make sure that we've invested wisely. But by the same token, like you said, when they're throwing in the commercial ties and they're trying to justify Audi being in Star Wars or whatever, what? There's no brands in Star Wars. What are you talking about? Mm-hmm. It's so much sale. When we know that it's so much sale, there's no sizzle there.
Mm-hmm.
We both know that there's no sizzle there.
Mm-hmm.
Or when they're selling, or again, nostalgia, when they're selling you the member berries to get you in there.
Yeah.
Because that's obvious they're selling to multiple generations.
Mm-hmm.
Because now they're selling to our age and people who have kids our age.
Sure.
And then even selling to their kids. Because we're about reaching at the point where our friends are now taking their grandkids to the theaters and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that, hey, Minions is going to have a few jokes for the adults and a lot of dumb jokes for the kids.
Yeah.
And it's basically movies for the grandparents to take their kids to.
Yeah. Yeah.
We know it.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I would say that, when, the part that I hate about it is movies are an art form, and art forms are not supposed to be corporate. Art forms are supposed to be individualistic expression of that person and how they view and see the world, and then they're able to articulate it through painting, movie, song, dance, whatever. And that's what I love, because it's not controlled. It's not a focus group telling you, well, this tests out best here with the black audience, and this tests out great with the female audience, and this tastes right. When you start making movies by committee, you take the soul out of the movie. And I want to see a soulful movie that touches me and makes me forget about my world for 2 hours and takes me somewhere, transports me, but it has themes that I can recognize and characters who are believably living in them, like a good pair of comfortable jeans that you always put on, right? So when business does it that way, then what you're doing is going to perpetuate a sameness that you see show up no matter which big company has the rights to it, like Disney. Right? They monopolize this stuff now, and they can go and be completely arrogant, because who's going to tell Disney don't do that when they're going, look at my, here, hold my budget, bitch. When they can show them, like, look how much money I've made. If I want to make a movie about blah 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 blah, I can do it. And even if it sucks, who cares? Right? We'll start doing all these animated films that were great and turn them into live action films. Right? And there's people that are struggling with watching that, because it's like, no, the animated is what they saw, is what they loved, and everything else could be better, but it's not. And so then you do the same thing to Marvel. Then look what happened to Star Wars, right? You killed Star Wars. That's the sequel trilogy is the worst Star Wars movies ever made, hands down. And so
I put the prequels under the sequels, man.
Do you?
1, 2, and 3, I think are far worse than 7, 8, 9. But that's for me.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I think the only thing I give the prequels credit for, and I agree with you, from a technical perspective, the prequels are pretty bad, but at least they understood what they were about and the worlds that they created and made sense for what they were trying to do, although I don't think it was executed the best way. I don't think Tread Federation talks were great. However, I don't care for just, hey, let's homage the crap out of everything from episode 4 and call this episode, 7. And then in 8, you turn around and say, now I'm gonna destroy a character, Luke Skywalker. And then in 9, I'm gonna try to take it all back and say, yeah, the stuff that you saw from Rian Johnson wasn't true. Here's how we explain. I mean, I don't know how you get worse than that. I mean, a movie tried to self-correct another movie in its sequel, in its trilogy. Like, that's crazy. If that ain't an admission that we're messing up, I don't know what is. Yeah. And this idea that you can have directors by committee, what?
Yeah, the studio. I have notes. Studio notes. You because I mean, again, when we watch movies critically, we can tell. Oh, the studio had notes. That's such a shame. Because I mean, I know that we talked about Ant-Man and what could have been with Edgar Wright's Ant-Man. What could have been?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the thing, I think, and that's why I'm more worried about, or I should say concerned about movies in the future, because once something makes money, Hollywood shows you, yeah, we're going to keep doing it until you get sick of it. That's what they've shown you. And I'm amazed that the superhero genre has continued this long without us switching, because when Westerns got overplayed, we switched it. When action movies, anti-heroes got overplayed, we switched it. But we're still sitting here, 12, 15 years later, still doing, but even more superhero movies. And not only that, TV shows also that you have to watch in order to keep up with what's going on in the movie. And I'm like, I don't know that I like all my media connected like that.
Yeah, they've kind of figured out basically that the superhero movies sell multi-generationally, because I mean, you've got about 3-4 generations now that are going to be able to get into these properties.
For sure.
And that's where the money comes from, because with Westerns, they're going for you and your dad, or the military film. If they're going for the love story, they're going for your mom, and they're going for your mom and your wife and your daughter. With these superhero films, they've basically shown, hey, we can capture them all, and we can put it in a soap opera, so you're afraid to miss it. They've been able to do it, because not only does it sell multi-generationally, but also the fact that it's a really good time to be a nerd, because nerds have the money. Nerds are the one who are putting butts and seats. They're not going for the westerns and the war movies anymore. They're going for the superhero movies because that's who's going to go see it because the internet because the internet apparently guides everything, and all they're going for is popular opinion. I mean, the audience is literally cyberbullied Sonic the Hedgehog into having to having to refix their character.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and that's strange too when you think about that. Then you have the sequel trilogy telling you, "No, you're just a bunch of fat fanboys that are living in your mom's basement. If we want to do this to Luke Skywalker, we can do it. Grow up and quit being a let the past die. Let the past die." Okay, then why did you bring back Palpatine? If you want to let the past die, why did you bring back Palpatine? Do you think we're the ignorant? We see what you're doing, fool. So you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth and expect us to think that you're actually cogent and creative. That's why, for me, I want to see the next band of writers and authors and people who understand storytelling, because I think that's the biggest issue. If we're talking about deal breakers here, like a movie, giving like examples of deal breakers, for sure. Like when you take a character, like a legacy character like Luke Skywalker, and you nerf him like they did in The Last, Jedi, and you made him hate the Jedi and think that they were the worst and this and that and this and that and this and that. I'm like, okay, that could be interesting. I could see how you could write something like that. Yeah, a guy should get frustrated after a certain period of time. But what do we also know about Jedis? Ben Kenobi never quit. He just said, I got too old for it. I need to find somebody else who could be the hope to help us carry on and may the Force be with us, right? It was always hope. But watching someone go, it's the Jedi that are the problem. It ain't really the Sith. And then these people get online and start arguing about, yeah, well, actually the Sith do have this right. And then you get into all this stuff. That's not what that whole thing was about. Yeah. Luke believed in his dad. He restored the Skywalker name because he wouldn't turn his back on his father. When Ben Kenobi did, Yoda did, and everybody else because of the bad things his dad did. Luke had hope. So to then say, hey, let's take hopeless Luke and sell him. No, he doesn't work like that. That's like Aretha Franklin doesn't sell as an accountant. She sells as a singer. Right. So let her be what she is. Let Luke be who he is. And so the idea that you thought you could toy with that, but then look what happened. We fell right back into Jedi versus Sith again, even though we were teasing that we were going to try to get rid of Jedi and Sith. But no, we went right back to it again.
Ooh, and I think I got one more deal breaker. And again,
please.
And I think that this one bears discussion because you brought up Aretha Franklin. What about the biopic?
Yep.
Movies that retell and recast history. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I want your perspective on this one.
Yeah.
I know this one's a big one for you.
Yeah, it is a big one for me. So biopics should not be just retelling us things that we kind of already know, because as fans of a particular artist, we probably know everything about that artist. I can tell you Ace Frehley's birthday because that's how big of a Kiss fan I am, right? Or at least the old Kiss. So it shouldn't be about that. It should be, what is the stuff we don't know that didn't make the headlines to help us understand who this artist was before they grabbed the mic. And then you can let the last 15 minutes of the movie be their outstanding performance. So I think with a biopic, that's how it needs to be done. Unfortunately, just like superhero movies, it's very formulaic and it's boring. And I roll my eyes because I'm like, okay, here's where they struggle to get a record deal. Here's where they get a record deal, but then the record company tries to screw them. Here's where they get this great idea to sell this one song, but the record company won't let them do it, but then they do, and then it's the greatest song they ever had. Here's where they become assholes and become drunk once they get all the money and everything they want in the world, and here's how they try to repair their relationships with their daughters and sons who were born because of everything else that was going on. It's too boring. That's why I'll say Straight Outta Compton was one of my favorites, because it didn't just deal with that. It dealt with the music industry versus censorship.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Motley Crue's The Dirt actually makes a joke out of it. This guy never showed up here. This never happened. I know you've heard the story, but this never happened this way. Mm-hmm. And they're making fun of, basically retelling the facts or kind of
isn't that the
George Lucas special editioning the facts?
Yeah.
Because when we go into one of these biopics and we know the history of the musician, we know what happened there, and you're going, that's not how it happened. That's not giving you the honest appraisal. That's not giving you the honest portrayal. That's giving you an over Hollywoodized version of the facts. You know, you don't always get to be Quentin Tarantino and redo it in the ending that you'd like to see.
Yeah, that's right.
It takes way too much liberty for you as when you know the history.
Yes.
And you know it well.
Yes.
Or even if you don't know it well, you're doing a disservice to the people who went into this movie going like, you're whitewashing those facts, and it does not work.
That's right. That's right. And that's what. And again, what are we asking for? All I'm really asking for here is I'm just asking you to do what the art form is supposed to be. It's supposed to be about creativity. What's the most creative way you can tell a story? That's what it's about. Before that, we would just be listening to just radio talk shows. But then once visuals were added, that added a component to help us understand. Then when you add sound to it, right? And so now we're at this place where we have CGI to it. And it's like, great, but what's the main story? Why should we care, as you said up top? Mm-hmm. Why should we care? Why should we care about these characters? What are these characters going to do about the situation they find themselves in? And are these characters likable? And if they're not likable, we're not going to care.
Right.
You know? And so what's the most likable character? Somebody who struggles and goes through something, because we all understand it. Like Rey, that's why she was so unlikable. That's why Mary Sue popped back up again, even though it was about a Star Trek character. That's what Rey is. When you watch Force Awakens, everything goes her way. Everything she attempts and touches goes her way. She's never even used the Force before, even a lightsaber before, but she can win her first battle. She can do a Jedi mind. She can do all these things that we saw Luke have to do trained, although they didn't show a lot of training, but they did give you enough to let you know he was at least trained on some level. He didn't just pick it up. So when people can just walk through life and do everything well, that's wish fulfillment. And who wants to see that person? Because we can't relate to the person that gets everything right, you know? And I think that's why Iron Man did so well, because when we saw Tony Stark get deconstructed as a rich guy who could do whatever he wanted, and then once he found out his missiles were being used for evil, and then he almost died at the hands of one of his own missiles, to see that change in Tony Stark made Iron Man real. If you just came in and showed him beating up a bunch of bad guys, we'd have been like, okay, that was fun. Yeah. But the reason why Iron Man 1 is good is because you actually felt his pain, his agony, the idea that he didn't have a heart, and then his girlfriend gives him that little thing that says Tony Stark has a heart, and now it's a reactor. All the symbolism to that was brilliant writing.
Yeah. Or on the opposite of that, like me in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah.
No, again, no pathos, no hero's journey there, just no struggle, just like me from the start.
Mm-hmm.
Automatically just awe and cute, and, you know, Milo noticing the whole thing.
Yes.
And that's all you use. Milo noticing the whole thing, because you're overly cute, you're overly funny, you're overly sweet, you're overly this, that just, when you see that on screen and you get that in the first 2 or 3 minutes, that's your immediate, I'm gone.
Yes. Yes, it is. Like I'll say Force Awakens, for example, right? So here's this picture that we get. The first thing we get is a trailer that shows a black stormtrooper, Finn. And that created some people going, what happened to the clones, and how could he, right, and all that stupid stuff. But then the movie poster showed Finn holding the lightsaber, and you started thinking, oh, Finn, there's going to be a person that's black that's actually the Jedi here. Nope, wrong, end around. They set you up like that, but really it was more about Rey and everything that she was going to do. And then she's just basically Luke Skywalker, but just as a female. And so when you go into all this stuff, you start going, so what is Finn then? Then you watch him. What is he? He's a buffoonish character. He's stupid. He's inept. He's ignorant. He's doing stupid things. He's supposed to be a trained warrior, but he gets his ass kicked in every fight scene in the movie. And you're just kind of going, how does this make sense? And if you're trying to be woke, because that's the other thing that's a deal breaker for me, when you force today's type of beliefs about something into something, rather than just letting it be a good story about these good people who happen to be whatever they are, when you force that, then it's not good. And so with Finn, I never liked Finn, will never like Finn at all, because he wasn't nearly as cool as Lando Calrissian or Mace Windu, because those two guys had agency. They were their own man. But Finn's like this little boy running around like, I don't know who my parents are, and I'm just doing this, and I learned this, and hey, I kill stormtroopers, even though a minute ago I was crying about a stormtrooper being killed, and now I'm here with this girl, and I want to save her, but yet she's going to save herself. And then and it's like, he's a buffoon. So if you're trying to be woke and you're trying to show people that you're into and trying to show equal strength and all this stuff, then why did you make him a punchline? The black character had to be a punchline after you had already set him up well in the other movies. So then you actually did the opposite of what you thought you were going to do. Because Finn to me, he's a joke. I know some people liked him because he was, he's a very sympathetic character and he really felt for people. But he was a buffoon, a joke. And he was that in all three movies. What's his arc? None. What did he ever become or do? Nothing.
By your justification, he actually had more arc in the Lego Holiday Special.
Ouch, yes. And to this day, John Boyega, if you get him to talk about his Finn character, he will go off. And he'll tell you, because at first he was glad to be in Star Wars, and then when he realized what happened to his character, he was like, this is what I played? Because John Boyega is a great actor. Just check him out. And Attack the Block, just check him out. One of his first films. This dude can act. And so when you see him do that, and then he portrays this character here. I thought the droids were supposed to be the comic relief and the goofballs and doing the silly things in the movie and stuff like that. He's literally the walking, talking, version of that's not another sentient being like what's his face, Jar Jar Binks.
Ooh.
He's basically Jar Jar Binks.
Wow. Ooh.
Right? In an era where we're trying to show black empowerment, like Black Panther and stuff like that, and movies that are being done by but you give us that? He's a black guy you think people are going to look up to? No. I'm sorry. Go watch some real movies like Judas and the Black Messiah, and stuff like that. You'll see that the depiction goes back to the 50s and the 40s when you had the Step It and Fetch It character. That's exactly who he is, a modern version of it.
Damn. Fair enough. All right. We got to get to our last point, man.
Got it. All right, so what did you get a chance to check out in between?
Okay, we're gonna go. Okay, I didn't know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't forget if we had anything else to wrap up on.
Oh yeah, let's do that. We can talk about what film. Was there a film that you thought about walking out on, or actually did walk out on, or
yes,
you were just completely discuss it on?
Yes,
with
2 words.
Yep.
Pearl Harbor.
Oh, okay.
Everything in this movie is trash. Everything from the forced love triangle to the quote-unquote exhilarating action to the historical inaccuracy. Just everything about this film is garbage. And I mean, I made it through. I think it's like a 3-hour film, 2 hours 45 minutes, 2 hours 50 minutes. And I'm about 2 hours in. I really want to be done with this. I really want to be done with this. And I'm done. Bye. I paid full price for this, and I'm pissed that I paid full price for it.
Yeah.
And you wasted my money. You wasted my time. You had terrible acting. You had terrible history. Just all of it gone.
Mm-hmm.
The only good thing about it was probably about the 6 minutes of film that Cuba Gooding Jr.'s in. That's it.
Wow.
Sayonara.
Yeah. Well, I had that same experience, but mine was that movie by M. Night Shyamalan. And that was freaking The Village. And what did it do first wrong? It marketed it wrong. It marketed it as if it was a horror film. And it was not. It was a love story. It was a romantic love story about these people. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me, because I had just seen The Grudge earlier that year, and I actually thought that was pretty good. I was like, okay, I'm kind of cool with this kind of The Grudge and the other one that came out too.
The Ring?
The Ring, yes. I was really starting to enjoy those at that time. And so you can imagine. So I go in to watch The Village, and then here it is, and it's this love story, these people. And there's only just a little scary thing that might be out in the woods, but then they undress that and show you what that really is. And so I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So I was mad. I was mad the whole time. And then eventually, I'm trying to remember if I actually did walk out, or was this just the one where I just actually almost went to sleep because I was bored?
I'll give you one more, because again, I do love horror films, and I'll tell you my progression.
Yep.
Saw. I used to every Halloween they would run a marathon of the Saw films.
Okay.
And we're very excited about. Okay, here's what happens. So I go to the marathon for Saw 1 through Saw 5, because again I'm a glutton for punishment, and I love marathons. So I go in Saw 1. Seeing Saw 1 again. It's a fun little. It's a really decent independent film. Saw 2 turns out the brutality, not great, but turns out the brutality. Saw 3, okay, it's a nice finisher. Then we get into Saw 4, and it's a friggin' magic trick. I go, oh God, this is terrible. This is a horrible way to continue this story. What are you doing to me? And then, like I said, but this got to be an anomaly. They'll get it back on track with this one. No, they increase the violence for no reason. They give stupid escapes. They throw off the game entirely. Throw out, everything that Jigsaw does. Just all of it. And I was just pissed watching my progression and my time roll out the window because, again, this is a franchise that I dug.
Yep.
And I watched it in real time. Piss me off.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm giving 6.5 hours of my time to this marathon. And you just killed my love for this whole thing in one night.
See, now that's rough because you had to watch the Eternals and then you watched 6 hours of that. That's a bad life right there, folks. Let me tell you,
I am a glutton for punishment, sir.
Let's set him up a Patreon page. Y'all need to help him because he sat through that and the Eternals. So that I got to give him props for that.
Yeah, we don't have the licensing to pay the Sarah McLachlan music. I'm sorry.
So let's talk about this so you guys don't think we're just completely going to be angry old men and curmudgeons for the rest of the day. We do want to tell you about some of the things that we think deserve a watch. And so, Zach, what's something that you would recommend as a good watch?
Okay, so I went into the movies this weekend to go catch the opening of Pearl. Oh, man. This is from A24 Studios. This is the prequel to the film X, which came out last year. This tells the story of in the movie X, the old woman in the movie, this is now her story. The story takes place in 1918 around the outbreak of the Spanish flu, where everything is hard and everything sucks. And you have this girl who's basically trapped in between the helping out one of her inland parents and her overly harsh mother, who just wants a better life for herself. She's stuck there because her husband's overseas fighting the war. She's really trying to get it. And what you see is everything that this woman loves, everything this woman wants or loves, just being taken away from her. And you watch her struggle. And you see, and I mean, the girl is already off. So when you see this off girl, having everything that she's dreamed of ripped away from her, you get a really, really bad consequence. And Mia Goth really puts in the work on this film. There are really golden moments. There is a one take, about 5-minute monologue.
Mm-hmm.
And, normally this would not be, great cinematic play, but this just, you see this woman build into this monster throughout this whole thing. And then there is a shot at the end. It is a one shot of her face. And you see an actress go through every possible emotion and degrade in front of your eyes. And it's a real shame that the horror community isn't going to be recognized for this, because she's not going to give a quarter of the recognition she deserves for the work that she put into this role, because it is a real just masterclass in how to not only build a woman into a monster. It really is just a class in how to put in work as an actor. And it's not your typical horror film.
Okay.
It does move a little slow at first, but man, when it starts running, it starts running.
Okay.
I can highly recommend it. If you saw X last year, because both Carlos and I really recommended that film, definitely go out to see Pearl. It's definitely worth your time.
Love it. That's great. So what I did is I actually rewatched an old movie, a movie that was given to me for my birthday by Kazak over there. It's the movie called Rad. All right. And this movie came out in 1986, the year I graduated high school. And as anybody remembers, the year that you're graduating high school, you're pretty up. You're pretty excited. And I would tell you, what all the movies today and the TV shows today are trying to do is they're trying to capture what this movie is naturally. because it was made in 86. So you get a very simple, straightforward story played by Bill Allen. He's the boy, the everyman kid who's just a paper boy, but he's really good at bike riding. That's the one thing he's good at. And of course, his mom, played by Talia Shire, wants him to just, no, you need to go take your SATs and be thinking about the future of your life because it's going to be about your education and all of that. Well, Crew, as he's called in the movie, short for Cruiser, Cruiser's just like, well, but I can take that 6 months later. This is something I got to do now because the opportunity presents itself now because they're going to have this big track called Hell Track built in their town. And all these pros from out of town from the factories, which a lot of the real factory riders were in this. So that's what I loved about that. So seeing Mike Miranda from Team Hutch, because I used to ride a Hutch BMX bike. Yeah, that was kind of cool to see that again. So this movie is not the greatest movie in the world in terms of how you would build it and craft it. But Hal Needham is the one who directed this. And he's the guy who's known for doing car action. So moving that to bicycles and keeping that same intensity. And he's a former stuntman who was an actor who then became a director. So he did 2 Smokey and the Bandit movies, 2 Cannonball Run movies, the movie Hoover, and Stroker Ace. So this guy knows something about action and fast-moving action and stuff that's doing with vehicles. So,
I totally forgot he directed the film.
Yeah, absolutely. And so here he is, and he pumps out this movie that if you sit down and you watch this movie, if you want a real 80s movie with the real 80s feel, it's not trying to mimic it. It actually is.
And a bike prom.
Yes.
With Full House's Lori Loughlin.
Yes. Absolutely. Would you sit back, you watch this film, what takes you over here, which you don't see in the films today, is there's soul here and there's charm. There's something about these no-name actors for most of them. And a lot of extras were hired to be in the scene as the people in the town and all this other stuff. Watching a town get behind a hometown hero who's the paper boy, who's just a genuinely good dude, right? Who's just trying to figure out what do I become next, right? And so the reason why this movie did not do well, it was made on a budget of $2 million. It only did $3 million, so that's not enough. It didn't double what it did, so it didn't make the money. But it ended up blowing up and becoming one of the most rented VHS tapes. In those blockbuster days, people would watch this movie over and over and over again because it captured youth and trying to figure out where you go next, just like Karate Kid, which has its own series nowadays. It captures that same magic, except for here it's around BMX racing, which was a big part of my life back then in the early 80s. It kept me from being out in the streets doing crazy stuff because I was too busy practicing to get faster so I could get rad, dude. You know, and that's my shirt as well today in Vans.
Yeah, stand up so we can get a good shot of it because you're blocked by the PC.
Blocked by the microphone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, there it is. There it is.
And the official movie poster cutout put into there. So you can't do rad and BMX without talking about Vans, and that's the very reason why I still wear Vans today. Now people wear Vans today just because it came back, in vogue. But back in the day, racers, we wore Vans, and skateboarders did too. So 86, good year because I graduated high school, but I also had fun stuff like this to watch. And I would say that today you don't have to be a big BMXer to enjoy the simplicity and just the charm of just trying to see the everyday man win. And he is convincing enough, even though he's not a big name actor. Most people never heard of Bill Allen. He was just in a couple of series of Hill Street Blues. That's how he got the job, because someone saw him. So rad, completely worth it. There was a long period of time where they didn't want to release it. It finally got released on DVD in 2020. And then they went on a little speaking tour with it, showing the film. And it still has people who are now in their 40s and 50s, some of them still riding their bikes and racing and doing bunny hops and stuff. So this movie is a cult classic that just pays dividends every time you watch it.
There you go. That's love right there. It's the member berry that's meant to be a member berry because hey, I remember when this movie was sold to me as a portion of my time. It spoke to you because it was what you were into at the time, and it still speaks to you because it's what you were into at that time. Yeah,
to sit back and watch it. And again, that's what a good movie does. A good movie transports you to a certain time and era. When it can do that, it's got you. And when it's got you by the feels, then you should pay attention. The original title was going to be called Balls Out, but I'm glad they didn't go with that because most people would not have understood. Is this a porno film or what is So I'm glad because that would not have connected very well with BMX. I'm glad they went with rad because that's what we used to say. We used to say, get rad, dude. That's what we always say. Get rad, dude. Today, I think people say, get bent, dude. They get mad. They're angry at each other, right? They say something else. Don't get it twisted is what we say today. But back then it was, nah, dude, get rad. Get twisted.
All right, bro, let's get on out of here, man.
Yep, we're getting on out of here. So who are you shouting out to? Who's your shout outs?
Again, we do just want to go ahead and shout out all our friends and family here at DallasOnAir.com. Of course, we do want to shout out Jedi and Cat for giving us a home here every Sunday. We do want to shout out all our other shows here, like, of course, the Rancor Pit and Isle of Toys, which we'll be bringing you next week. Me and Cole Houston will be in studio talking toys. I think we're talking unsafe toys this time around, so it should be interesting. In addition to that, like I said, we've got a great lineup here on DallasOnAir.com. Check out Say Something. Check out the CADD show. Check out all the stuff that we got here on DallasOnAir.com. We've got something for everyone, including us nerds.
That's it. That's exactly right. So my shout outs go to Sean Presley. Lauren Weedauer is a buddy of mine who also was a BMXer with me. So if you're watching this today, Weed, I know you're going, yeah, dude, rad. I know what you're doing, man. So
getting out the bike and warming up the bike.
That's right. In fact, he has a huge bike collection, Lauren does. He's still buying those BMXs, and that's
nice.
Cool. He still is. And he's got pinball machines too, and especially the Kiss pinball machine, which is awesome. So Tristan Fraser, Harry Thomas Prim, who's also a YouTuber, Troy Ross, good friend, Daniel Mesa, really good friend, Freddie, Eddie Medina, Cole Houston, of course, Stephanie Crane, and I cannot forget the OG, the film samurai himself, Carlos Salinas. And with that, we're the Fulfillment Crew, and we'll see you next time.
Deuces.
Deuces.